Thank you so much for finding out time for NDTV. It's a pleasure that we are speaking to you. First, you're here, not the first time that you're here, but the World Economic Forum, we're passing through very difficult times globally. What was the talk? What did you pick up from a whole host of industry leaders that you met and spoke to?
Well, it was an interesting discussion. I think, last year this time, the world was on its way into very uncertain territory in terms of the economic challenges, and in the Global World Economic Forum that followed.
I have with me to speak today a very special person who wrote his first book more than 25 years ago. And when he wrote that book called In Search of Excellence, it set new standards for a lot of management thinkers, for a lot of companies that were featured also in that book. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Tom Peters. It's an absolute pleasure to be speaking to someone who's advised companies around the globe, been with them, seen them grow, and in the last 18 months, also seen some of those legendary names, big names, fail, fall, make mistakes. After these 18 months, particularly in that since January of 2008, what are some of the lessons that we've learned, and what are some of those lessons companies refuse to learn even now?
I think there are probably 100 different answers to that question. The thing I think that concerns me most is maybe how little we learned instead of how much. The market's making a bit of a comeback now, and we haven't put the regulatory pieces into place that might be helpful in keeping it from happening again.
Hello and welcome to the big interview. Two people who've been very closely working on the Bharti Zen deal, two people whose faces you've seen, whose statements you've seen, and who've worked day and night to get the deal through. Thank you so much, Manoj Kohli and Akhil Gupta, for joining us. First, the big picture. The deal is done. Can you rest easy, or is it time to run faster now?
The deal to run is just getting to the starting point. I think the work starts now.
So all the hard work will be done by you, Manoj. Tell us, what are your priorities? How do you go about it in the next few months? You said that the brand will be launched in maybe October or so, which is a few months away.
No, I think we have to create Airtel in Africa now. That's our first job. Understand customers, consumer behavior, and really launch the brand so that brand touches the hearts of 450 million customers sooner than later.
The last 12 months have been pretty tumultuous at the board of Hewlett-Packard. They've had 9 new faces in the board since in the last 2 years or so. And they've had the executive chairman and the CEO being replaced, new faces there in the last few months as well. For the man who's at the helm of affairs, Leo Apotheker, he now joins me to speak for this very special conversation. Thank you so much for finding out time for NDTV.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, first of all. It's a pleasure to talk to you and to the Indian audience. In fact, I wouldn't want to read too much into the TVs or what happened with the board. The HP board gets re-elected every year, and when I became CEO, the board actually offered voluntarily to say you should be able to make whatever change you want in the board, because we want to support the new management of HP.
What are you going to tell the global leaders, when you meet them in person or even at the G20 summit that happens later this year? What are you going to tell these leaders, and what is going to happen in South Korea later this year? What are you going to tell them?
Mostly I tell them that they have to consider creating a second engine of growth. Most growth in Asia has been built on exports.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Profit This Week, and need we say that this week has been one exciting week for us, tracking so many big stories, so many developments, so many angles to those stories. Let's start as always with the headlines. First, the big story about the telecom tangle. The government has announced the setting up of a one-man committee to look into the allocation of spectrum from 2001 onwards, after a war of words broke out this week. The committee will submit its report in a month. But the CBI moved this week and raided the residences of former Telecom Minister A. Raja and several others who are suspected to have had a hand in the allocation of what is now called the 2G spectrum scam. Hello and welcome. You're watching Breaking News, and Cyrus P. Mistry has been appointed Deputy Chairman of Tata Sons. He's going to be working closely with the Chairman of Tata Sons, that's Ratan Tata, over the next 1 year. And after that period of 1 year, he will take over as the Chairman of Tata Sons. That's big development, and he was the unanimous choice of the committee that had been set up to look into the succession for Ratan Tata. Hello and welcome. You're watching Be Me in Business, and today it's the day to talk about oil companies. Oil companies, India's oil companies, have seen their worst ever losses with over 47,000 crore rupees of gross under-recoveries for the first quarter. That is impacting the borrowing of companies, and that's hitting where it hurts for oil companies. The working capital requirements, that has been also hit. That has shot up as well because of the under-recoveries. To discuss all the issues related to this very critical sector for the country, I have a very high-powered panel with me. Joining us, R.S. Sharma, former chairman of ONGC, joining me in the studios here in Delhi. R.S. Pandey, the former oil secretary, joining us on a satellite link. Dr. Kirit Parekh, also the former member of Planning Commission, he's also joining us. We'll be joined in a little while by Devin Choksi, Managing Director at KR Choksi Securities, and my colleague Rajkumar Sahu also joins us in the studios here in Delhi, all talking about this critical issue for these companies and, of course, for the energy security of the country. JCB is one of the largest construction equipment manufacturers in the world. Today on Buses Day Out, we'll be spending the entire day with the Managing Director and CEO of JCB India, that's Vipin Sondhi, and ask him how growth is returning now that the GDP and the IP figures. Good morning, how are you?
Hi Ashutosh, nice to see you.
Same here.
And welcome to our facility.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
wonderful
to have you.
that I can get to spend the day with you. This
Delighted.
looks huge.
Well, it's grown over a period of time, as all things tend to grow. And of course, markets, as the Indian market has been growing for the construction equipment, we've grown as well, and we've tried to remain contemporary as we've gone along.